Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and this is the Astral Library. And we've made it, folks. We've made it to the end of the year. Thank God. I'm so happy 2025 is done, or practically done. I think when this comes out, there's still a couple more days, but they don't count. We're not gonna do anything with them other than try to finish up this last book I'm reading. But that's another topic for another day. Today, we are here to do our final wrap up of 2025. Of course, of which we're gonna talk about the best books I read in 2025 and the worst books I read in 2025. None of these should come as a surprise to you because I've pretty much talked about all of these in a vlog, I believe. I think minus one or two. So again, no surprise. I'm not going to spend a ton of time describing what they're about because again, I have aforementioned vlogs, which I'll be sure to throw up a little video card in the corner if I read this in a vlog so you can see my thoughts more closely. But other than that, let's go ahead and just dive straight in. But actually, I lied. I have some honorable mentions. These are books that I read that I either really enjoyed or just stuck with me in some way that I felt like I had to talk about them, even though they didn't quite make the top 5. And the very first one of those is All That She Carried by Tia Miles. Now, this is one I have not talked about in a vlog. This is in fact one that I read when I was doing my preparation for my exam. It's part of my dissertation studies. And this book is so fascinating and I think such a really good blend of like fiction and nonfiction because we're following this family heirloom as it travels through time through the women in the family and how an enslaved woman named Rose smuggled this like scrap of fabric that she would then pass down to her daughter, then be passed down to her daughter, and so on and so forth. And it's really just tracing the history of these artifacts that are not encapsulated in the archive because they're not seen as worthy or they're not known about and because there's something that only exists in the family, and particularly something that has only existed and carried through the women in the family. And this was just such a great read. Like, you can see my tabs going on in it because it does such a good job of talking about the problems with the archive, which is a major proponent of my studies, but also blending fiction and story of like the history behind these artifacts and why they're so important and getting to see it and travel along with it through time and from woman to woman. It was just really good. And I think it's a nonfiction book that is really easy to read. You could pick this up, and if you're really intimidated by large academic language or just like really denseness, this is not the book that does that. It is really kind of beautiful in how it's crafted, and the audiobook as well is really good. So highly recommend it, especially for someone who's doing something like a personal curriculum in 2026. This would be a great thing to add because not only is it a BIPOC author, but it is talking about BIPOC experiences and histories, which I think is really important. The next one I have for honorable mention is actually Guild by Raven Kennedy. So this is a series that everyone's read. This came out, God, I think a couple years ago, and I picked this up on a whim. When I tell you that this book single-handedly pulled me out of a reading slump, I devoured the first 3 books so fast. They were so much fun. I really gravitated and just like sunk into reading in a way that I haven't this year. It's been kind of a struggle, not gonna lie. 2025 was just really hard in terms of just like reading and enjoying what I'm reading. This series and this book just reminded me of like the fun and the kind of ease that reading could have. Like when you just like let your brain turn off and just sink into a book and enjoy what's on the page. That's what this book reminded me of. It reminded me of when I had a lot less shit going on, when I was just able to like binge read books back to back, that I wanted to binge read books back to back. This series really did that for me. I'm excited to continue the second half of the series, which I could actually see a little bit hanging out right here. I will be reading that come January probably, but yeah, no, I really want to talk this book because it made me fall in love with reading once more. It may not be the best written or like the tightest story, but it's a lot of fun. If you've been really wanting to read like a really good kind of like smutty fantasy romance with like a badass female lead with like fae and powers and all that, this is definitely the one. The next honorable mention I have is Blood Slaves by Marcus Redmond. This one's contentious because I didn't necessarily have the best time reading this book, but it did stick with me for a while and I really enjoyed the concepts and the writing style. It's a book that is following the main character on a plantation who is enslaved and talking about his experience as a slave. And of course, we're mixing in vampires. And like, what happens if you mix vampires and slaves and slave masters? Carnage. And I just have to say, the ending of this book was everything I wanted. But the build up to the ending was a little excruciating. And I think it was only excruciating because of my studies and my focus, in that it does a really good job of showing you the horrors of slavery in ways that like does not hold back its punches, does not kind of like make it more digestible. It shows you the true horrors. In doing that very carefully, it allows the beginning of this book to feel pretty slow. And because I already knew all that, I did not need that extra hand holding. It felt extra slow, but I think for a lot of people, this would be a really, really good read. And I think would be really interesting if you, again, you want to blend historical with fantasy, especially darker fantasy. This is not a book I would pick up if you're like in a feel-good mood, but if you want to read like really gritty vampires and like revenge stories, like if you really like Ring Shout, I think you would really enjoy this. It also would not be me if I did not recommend a graphic novel, and for that I have Flip by Ngozi Ukazu. This is the same author who did Check Please, which we just found out we're getting another volume. Bless, I'm so excited for another volume of Check Please. But this is her newest release this year. And it follows our main character, Chi-Chi, who has this crush on this boy, and somehow, some way, they end up switching bodies. And it's about how they learn more about each other as they're kind of also navigating school and crushes and just growing up and what are you gonna do with your life. I thought it was really, really fun because the boy she has a crush on is a white boy, and just seeing him like having to figure out what it means to be black and what like to be in a black body and a black female body was both hilarious and just like very heartfelt. And to see her in turn kind of like figure out what does it mean to be a man and to deal with those types of expectations, I think it was really well done. The art, as always, is just stunning. It's very vibrant and the characters feel very like full and well developed. I really enjoy not only the main characters but the side characters as well. Just had to talk about it. I feel like if I don't talk about her and her work that's being published, something's wrong with me, because I adore everything she writes and I just love her art. And I am so happy to have the finished copy in my hands, because I actually read this when I got the art from Y'all West, which I actually give the art to my friend, but I'm so happy to have the physical copy in my hands. All right, and the very last honorable mention I wanted to do was The Mercy Makers by Tessa Grafton. So this is the first Tessa Grafton book I've actually ever read. A lot of people read the Queen Innislear series, which I do have. I have to say, this is a world and a magic system that really stuck out to me. I was just so invested in like what's going on with these characters and what's going on with these worlds, because the tension between all of these characters is not only palpable, but it's just like, oh, like what is gonna happen? Like my shoulders to my ears, I was like gripping the book, just like freaking out, especially when it gets to the ending. I was like, what is gonna happen? Who do we root for in this case? Who is correct? Who is morally right? Who is morally superior? Like all of those things were just really well done in this, and I thought the writing was very, very atmospheric. Tessa Grafton just like has a way of like writing, and at times it can be dense, especially when she's like getting into like the historical records, which we get kind of snippets of throughout this book. That it was a complaint for a lot of people, but I found it really enjoying and it just like really sunk me into this world further. I do think there's some like pacing issues here and there where like moments felt really slow or a little too fast, but overall I really, really enjoyed it, and it actually got me rooting for the relationship I didn't think was gonna go on, and I like could not decide. I could not decide who I wanted more. I think I want both. Am I gonna get both? I don't know. I'm excited to pick up the next book in this series when it eventually gets published, because I think it's a trilogy, but all I know, this is book one. And wow, where are we gonna go with this? Because thread and magic and just that stunning cover, you'll be seeing more of this series on this channel, that's for sure. I say as I have a shelf, a series behind me, but you know, we're not gonna talk about that, okay? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get into the worst books of 2025. Now, I have to have my iPad here for the first two because I don't own them. And you know what? I'm glad that I don't own them because I hated them. So the first one is, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. You know what it is. You know, because I just talked about this. couple times, but that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I have extensively talked about why I don't like this book, but I'm just gonna say a little bit here just in case you didn't watch the other videos. So you can go back and watch them for the full rant, because it's plenty. My thing is that Fourth Wing is really good in concept, but Rebecca Yarros' writing is so bad in that it can't decide, first off, who the main character is as a person. Like, there's no consistency in Violet's character. There's no development in the romance that we are supposed to be really invested in, believe in the series. I believe that the characters are attracted to each other, but I don't feel like there's any real emotional connection other than that we're told that there's an emotional connection. And speaking of telling, the amount of world building in the series is just info dumping. We would meet a character and then get the whole backlog of how they're important and why we're gonna need to know all these specific things about them. And it just felt clunky. And I hear that it only gets worse, so I will not be continuing that series. We're just gonna leave it there. Go watch the other videos. I go a little bit in more depth of what I mean by each of those points, but I can't hang. I love that for you though. If you love and die hard by Fourth Wing, love that for you. And the other one that I don't own is The Hunger of Gods by John Gwynne. This is the second book in the Shadow of Gods series. I think that's what it's called. And I have to say, technically did not finish this book. I got about 75 to 80%. I couldn't do it. I did not enjoy the first book. I will preface saying that. I did not like the first book. I thought the story was interesting, but I thought the way it was written was really disengaging for me because it is a multi-perspective story in which every chapter is told through a different character's perspective. And while that can be done really, really well at times, like in the Vagrant God series by David Daglish, I really like his multi-POV stories. And I found myself engaged in every character. But for The Hunger of Gods, my issue was in the first book and in the second book is that it would switch us in the middle of the tensest moment, and then I'd have to go back and figure out where am I at with this other character? What's going on? Who are these people again? When all I wanted to do was go back to the previous character, and sometimes I'd be gone for chapters at a time. I'm just I don't care about what's happening with character B because character A is in the middle of something, and in the middle of something that we're gonna immediately switch back to when we get back to their perspective. So I would have to reinvest myself in everything that was going on and remember the plethora of characters in each segment and who's interacting with who. And there's a lot of characters. A lot of characters with very Nordic names, because it's set in Norse mythology. So some of them blurred together in my mind. I just couldn't hang. I could not hang. And as I was listening to this book, because I thought switching mediums would really help, it did not. I was so bored through everything going on that getting to 80%, I just hit I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. I can't hang. It's not gonna be me. And I DNF'd a book at 80%, which I've never done before. I have never DNF'd a book that far in, but I did. I just couldn't handle it. All right, the next one I do actually own, and it's If We Were Villains by ML Rio. Again, this is one I've talked about a couple of times, I believe, in a wrap-up and a little bit in a vlog. I want to like it. I see why people like it, but I found the characters so obnoxious. Especially the main character. Oh my god. Because they're theater kids, and they come with a certain amount of drama and flair, right? More than that, they were just making stupid, insufferable decisions. The story felt really weirdly paced in that it was really slow at times, it was really fast. I don't know. It's not a long book, but it felt like it took forever. And the narrator, because I listened to this on an audiobook, I've never had a narrator speak so slow that I put him at 2-point speed and it still sounded slow. He was agonizingly so. And I think that added to just my dislike of this book. There's nothing I could do to have made it go faster other than physically sit down and read it, which I did contemplate. I think the elements of the story is cool, and I see again why a lot of people love this. It just has that certain little bit of spice, something that to sink your teeth into, that if you're in the niche or in the clique that is surrounding these books, or you really like that kind of atmospheric dark academia vibe, this is definitely definitely a book for you, but I'm actually in academia, and this would not be like the topic I would put in Dark Academia. The next book I have for this is one that is actually highly rated, but I hate it because the ending, the last 10 pages ruined it. And that is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the last book in the Good Girls Guide for Murder series, which I read the first one, I think the end of last year. And so I was finishing up the series this year. This is such a tonal shift from the other two books. And I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I really, really enjoyed that aspect for this. That's actually a point a lot of people like complain about. Like, it's so much darker, it's so much different than the other two books. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's a lot of merit and kind of like interest in like what is the twist in this book and like what is going on. My gripe with this book is that it assassinates itself in the last like 10 to 20 pages, in which we see our character who's so smart. Like, Pip is like so smart and witty and just like on it, to suddenly just like nosedive her own intelligence. Like, I don't think Holly Jackson knew how to get out of the ending that she wrote herself into, but what she chose to do was not it. It was not it. I hated it. I was actually very upset. I remember getting to the end of this book and just being so mad that I like ranted to my roommate because he like caught me at, like when I was mad about this book. I could not hang. Again, it's really highly rated. I think I rated this like a 4-star. And I think if I could rip out those 20 pages and just like fan fiction myself a new ending, that this could have been a 5-star. This had the potential to actually be one of my favorite in the series because of its tonal shift and because of just like how it ended. I think, or not how it ended, but like how it was gonna end as a series and like the final like mystery we're going through was really fascinating. And I think a good kind of like twist on everything that happened to books 1 and 2. All right, and the last book I have for the worst books of 2025 was actually, sadly, Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I wanted to like this book so bad, especially because I really, really enjoyed Children of Blood and Bone. But the way this book just, again, it's kind of like As Good as Dead. It assassinates its characters. But instead of like assassinating its character in the last like 10, 20 pages of a book, the whole book is just the assassination of our main characters. Again, I have a rant of this in, I think both in the vlog that I read this and I think somewhere else. I just really, really, really did not enjoy this at all. I was so frustrated reading this. I contemplated DNFing it a couple of times, but I kept just holding out hope that it was going to get better. And I knew it shouldn't have been because like how small this book is in comparison to Children of Blood and Bone, which was a really just like fascinating series and like so interesting and developed that by the time we get to this, we have the potential of really working through some of these systemic issues that we were presented in Children of Blood and Bone. But instead of actually like working through any of those, we decided to like make this about rash decisions. Is all I could say without really being spoiler heavy. But yeah, I was severely disappointed in this, especially in how this book ends. I ended up listening to the first chapter or 2 of the third and final book in the series, and I DNF'd it right then and there because I just hated it so much. I hated it. It made me feel like, what was the point of the first 2 books entirely? I've DNF'd this series. I've been contemplating like unhauling this book. It definitely deserves a spot on my worst books of 2025. All right, and the section you've probably been waiting for the most is, of course, the best books of 2025 in my opinion. Not all of these are 5 stars, though some of them are. These are ones that I just like either surprised by how much I really liked it or just like had a good time all around. Again, this year was kind of tough in terms of reading and just stress levels, so finding a book I like super duper enjoyed, like had very little notes or like no notes on, was hard and a struggle. So these books, again, made the cut. I love them so much. I've been recommending them to people, so that's been my criteria of like what I chose. And the very first book is, spoiler alert, by Olivia Dade. This is the very first Olivia Dade book I've read, and I've had this book on my shelf for years, I think now at this point. I had it on my shelf because of 2 reasons. 1, we have a plus size main character, and 2, that it is actually baked into fan fiction, and like it plays a big role in the story because it's about an actor who writes fan fiction on his own character and a woman who cosplays and writes fan fiction. Olivia Dade did her research, or like is a fandom girly herself, because the way fanfiction and fandom is treated in this book is just so well done. I loved every second of this. The smut scenes are really spicy and fun. The relationship between the two of them is well done. I really like how they handle a plus size main character, and that we talk about like the stigma around being plus size and fat in America, and especially with someone who exercises as much as her love interest, who's like this like big hunk of an actor. The problems going with that and the relationship aspect of that. Again, this was really, really well done without being like the main focus. The main focus is, of course, both internal issues, a plethora of things. Again, I don't want to spoil this for you, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did, because I'm not like a huge romance reader, but I devoured this book, and I will definitely be reading more of Olivia Dade, because again, I just had so much fun with this one, and it's a beautiful cover. I really like the banter between them and the way this relationship developed. I feel like it was just well paced enough, like not too slow, not too fast, that made me just like fall in love with them and really believe that these two can make it. I believe that these two actually will get their happily ever after, you know? This one should come as no surprise, because I'm pretty sure the first book in this series made my top books of 2024. The last book is making this list, and that's of course The Empire of Gold by Shannon Chakraborty. No notes. I have no notes on this book because this series was literally perfect. Everyone said that like before I ever read this series, the Davenport trilogy, and they're just right. They're just right. It's just that good. The way this world is built, the magic system, the characters, everything was so phenomenally done. And especially in this book, like there's characters I hated in this book, okay, that I was like ready to see buried. I had the shovel, was ready to do the first dig. And yet by the end of this book, I was like in tears. In tears, like, no, wait, maybe I don't hate you anymore. Maybe I forgive you. And seeing Nari just like hit her full potential and to like go through it and like everything that's going on. Like it was thrilling, it was sweet, it was sad, it was heart-wrenching. Everything about this was so freaking well done. Honestly, this is the perfect trilogy. This is the perfect trilogy. Like book 2 is not bad. Like there's no middle book slump. I would say the first book's the weakest. If anything, the first chunk of the first book is the slowest, but it's also necessary to get to this book and to get to the world that's being developed in here. I'm going to somehow, some way get my hands on a hardback edition of this book, because I need them in my life, because they're just that good. They're just that good. I need them in my preferred format. And I've literally forced like 2 or 3 people to read this book, the series, since I've read it. So that's how you know I'm a diehard fan for this series. I'm a diehard fan for Shannon Chakraborty. Literally everything that woman's written, I've just been nom 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 nom, because a woman can write. This book also should come as no surprise, because I love this series and I took a long hiatus from it, but I was back this year. Of course, it's Iron Gold by Pierce Brown, the first book in the sequel quartet. Yeah, there's only one more book. Oh god, there's only one more book. Oh my god, I don't even know where to start. It's been, I literally took like 2 years off of the Red Rising series from when I first read it, maybe a year. It's been a lot of time, and I've been putting off starting this sequel series for so long. I don't know why it took me as long as it did to get to Iron Gold, but I'm almost grateful I did, because taking the time away felt like the actual passage of time we get between Iron Gold and Morningstar, whatever the third book is. It felt like I was actually doing that passage of time, and it was really cool to go into it with that. It was a little annoying because I had to remind myself of like certain things and certain events and characters, but once I got back into the swing of things, I was in it. I was in it and there, and I miss Darrow. I miss Severus. I miss the gang. I miss the stakes of this world, and like the truly kind of like, what do we do? How do we pretend to be, or how do we craft a world in a broken system, doing it imperfectly? It was just so good. I really, really enjoyed it. I really loved coming back to this world. I am still hesitant to continue on because we do not have the last book, and I know my heart is gonna be broken, especially because the next one of this right here, Dark Age, that golden bastard there, I hear that one breaks your heart. And everyone and their mother, when Lightbringer came out, was just like talking about how they are in tears. And I'm not ready for my heart to be broken when I still don't have a release date for Red God. When I get that release date, I will read Dark Age and I will cry, and then I will read Lightbringer and cry, and hopefully by the time Red God comes out, my heart will be healed in that book. But knowing Pierce Brown, I'm going to be in tears for the rest of the series. Thank you, Iron Gold, for making sure that I'm gonna be in tears for this series, because it's already set me up for heartbreak, and I'm just, again, so much more in love with this world for coming back to it. All right, the next book is from Miss Holly Jackson. I said we weren't done with her yet, and her new adult release made my top books. So this is Not Quite Dead Yet, and this is, again, her first adult release. And I have to say, this was so much fun. This is a book that, even though I knew how it was going to end, just because of the premise of it, I didn't know how it was going to end, and I was still like so invested. Like, what are we gonna do to reach that ending? Are we actually gonna get there? Is something gonna happen? I was there. It felt like reading A Good Girl's Guide to Murder all over again, in the sense that, like, we're getting like the same kind of like whippy kind of mystery going on, that we're like snapping. It's like really quick and easy to devour, and the characters are just like so like fun and relatable that I just had a good time. All around, I had a good time. I've been recommending this book to a lot of people, especially if they want to like make that leap between young adult and adult. I feel like this is a very solid like middle ground. It doesn't lose like the same tone and like fun of YA and get into like the stuffiness, quote unquote, of adult books. I think it's just a really good bridge between the two. And again, great book for someone who's like not like been super into reading, but likes thrillers, likes, again, easy reads. This is a book that definitely does that. Okay. And we've reached the end, the final book, final creme de la creme of 2025. And you should see this one coming. It is, of course, Immortal Dark by Tigis Germa. Oh my god. First off, Princess, if you're watching, thank you for forcing me to read this book and making sure it was on my TBR, because I would not be here. I devoured this book, and I devoured its sequel, and I will devour the third and final book when it comes out next year, because I need it in my hands. I haven't read a really good enemies to lovers romance book in years, like especially one that's been newly published. I just feel like enemies to lovers is something that like the art form's been lost in the way romance has been a really fast burn lately. Like I feel like a good enemies to lovers has to be slow burn. Like it does not work otherwise. And like I don't like I'll ever truly believe that they are enemies. But the enemies to lovers in this one, so well done. I believe these characters are so antagonistic to each other. And Kitten as a main character is so badass and fucking crazy that I love her for it almost as much as Suzanne Yost loves her for it, because that woman would rather like bite her own nose off to spite you, and I am here for it. I'm here for the woman's wrongs and the woman's rights. The vampires in this book, the Ethiopian mythology, the dark academia feels, the mystery going on, the lyrical, beautiful writing, and chef's kiss. I will say, if you're thinking about reading this book, make sure you have book 2 handy, because you're gonna need book 2 after the ending of this book. And when you reach the end of book 2, I'm sorry there's no more yet. I too wish there was a third book already, even though I just finished the second book like a couple weeks ago. I too wish there was another one, but there's not one yet, and we will all have to suffer. But I assure you, it's worth every page, it's worth every wait, it's worth every agony of wait for the final book, because it's just that girl. It's just that girl. Like, not only is it stunning, like, look at this art. Look at these edges, which these quotes, to die for. To die for. Go read this book. I can't recommend this enough. I've given this as a gift twice this year. Like, that's how you know how serious I am about this book. I've given it a gift twice to 2 separate people. We'll probably give it as a gift to more people in the coming year. So definitely, I'd say probably my favorite read of 2025 by far. Even though nothing else in this list is really ranked accordingly, this one I would say is number 1. All right, but that is my best and worst books of 2025. 2025. Let's get a look at the final stack. These are the best and worst books of 2025 according to my year of reading. Agree or disagree, that's up to you, but I think we did pretty good. Overall, thinking of how terrible 2025 was for my reading, I think we did a pretty damn good job. But yeah, that's my last video of 2025, guys. Literally coming out just a few days before the year is going to end. Wow, what a time it's been. Another year on YouTube. Crazy. It's crazy. I think this is like my third year, which is, I don't want to think about, to be honest. I am going to be taking a couple weeks off, so you will not see me until about midway through January. I just need a little bit of time to reset overall. And just to do some like housekeeping, I am switching back to a weekly schedule in 2026, so you'll be getting more content from me. We'll be doing more videos like this where we're sitting down and chatting, as well as some vlogs and some challenges and all that. So I'm going to be planning all of that out, trying to get a good schedule down to make sure I can keep up with a weekly schedule. And also it's going to be my birthday in January. It is on January 13th, so I'm gonna be celebrating that in the 2 weeks that I'm off. I've also been bullied that I have to have my birthday wish list, and I will have that in the description down below if you would like to send me a gift, but you do not have to. You are no way obligated to do so. I love that you guys just comment and we have a good time, so I'm only putting that because I was bullied that I had to put it there. So peruse it at your desire. But I am rapidly losing sunlight here, and I'm gonna go ahead and close this video out. I hope you guys had a really great Christmas and you have a really good New Year's. And thank you all for being the amazing viewers you are, and everyone who comments. I love you so much. It's always like, it brings a smile to my face when I see a comment on one of my videos, even an older video. Like, I'm still getting videos on the Dawn May video, and every time I do, I'm just like so giddy to like talk about Dawn May. Like, you don't even know. I've been out of my Dawn May sphere for a bit, so it's nice to come back to it. But that's gonna be it for me. I will see you guys in 2026. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day. Bye!